Hi everyone, Firestorm here, so this is a review, my thoughts really, on the live action Bleach film. I just watched it on Netflix. Okay, for us to start with, it wasn't a bad film. I can't say that I found it to be a bad film, because in my experience, live action adaptations of anime aren't normally that good. I mean, in my personal opinion is that there's only two I've only seen a few live action adaptations, but the only two I would say which are really good, that I really enjoy and feel like are quite close to the source material, is the live action Death Note and the live action Tokyo Ghoul. But onto the live action Bleach. I generally can't say that it was a... how can I put this? I can't say that it was a genuine adaptation. It's a good film, but it's not the live action Bleach I was hoping for. It very much it's very clear it's a standalone film, that there won't be any sequels. And it's a very different plot from the Bleach series that all the fans that have watched it will know of. Because originally I was hoping that there was going to be at least a trilogy, that they were possibly going to cover the first 3 seasons. But what this film is a singular story arc, following very loosely the story of season 1, with some very subtle differences. I mean, the film starts, spoilers from here if you haven't seen it yet, so spoilers. So the film very much follows a similar path to season 1, with Ichigo, starting off with Ichigo basically beating up a load of young lads that have disturbed the memorial site of a dead child, obviously because you can see the ghost. Later on, Rukia shows up and she ends up giving him her soul reaper powers so he can defeat the Hollow that's attacking him and his family. It definitely follows the opening part of the film is pretty much spot on. I can't fault that. It's pretty much like episode 1 of Bleach. It works. It's very much to a T. However, I'd say from there it spans off into its own thing. It has enough references from the series, or at least season 1, but some of the characters in it feel very much removed. They're nothing more than support characters. Whereas Rukia's character in this, to an extent, is based off her anime counterpart, I would agree that she is very much the supporting character. Even though she is one of the primary characters in the series, in this film she is a supporting character who spends a lot of time training Ichigo. You see, that's one of the things that I feel didn't need to be done. We didn't have to have this whole training montage with Rukia and Ichigo, because it's Urahara who ultimately trains Ichigo at the start of season 2, after he had his fight with Renji and Byakuya. Now, to cover Renji and Byakuya in this film, I'd say to an extent they're not the Renji and Byakuya from the series. They are very, very different. The Soul Reapers themselves seem to have a code that doesn't exist in the series, and it's this code which is kind of the whole reason why they're looking for Rukia. Because even though Rukia giving Ichigo her abilities in the series is considered a crime, realistically the aftermath of that, as we know, is all manipulation by Aizen. But Aizen's not in this. It's really the only Soul Reapers that you actually see in the flesh are Rukia, Renji, Byakuya and Urahara, not including Ichigo in that. Obviously, I just said Urahara. Urahara's a Quincy guy. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up there. Not Urahara. Kisuke. Kisuke. No, it is Kisuke Urahara, yeah. So he is in it, but he's very much a minor character. He doesn't really do anything. And the whole story, the whole purpose of the story is Grand Fisher. He's turned into the main hollow that's kind of been searched for. And it's kind of giving you a narrative that eventually Ichigo realises that this is the hollow that killed his mum, and as a result it just becomes a personal vengeance vendetta. It's just, as I said, I'm not disappointed. I just feel a bit let down, like I wanted more. You have a few niggles from the series in the film, but aside from that, it's its own creation. It's very, for a film I'd say it's solid, but it lacks the definition. One thing I'll give it credit for, you do see Soul Society in the film, only very briefly for maybe a few seconds, and it looks nice. It was quite beautifully designed, and it looks just how it should look. And I don't know why they've chosen to go with a narrative that leaves out everything that we know about the Soul Reapers and create a whole new blend, a whole new Soul Reaper. And a lot of things you see, like for example, you do see a bit of Rukia's Kido, but it's never explained what it actually is. She just uses it, and it's like, well, what is it? It doesn't explain it like it does in the series. A lot of the time, that the subplot for Rukia, for Rukia, Renji, and Byakuya, just doesn't really gel. Because in the basics of it, Renji and Byakuya show up on Earth looking for Rukia, as they pretty much do in the series, but the whole thing evolves around them effectively telling Rukia, you have to kill Ichigo. You have to kill him and take back your powers, or you'll go back to Soul Society and you'll be executed. I'm not too keen on the way Renji and Byakuya are pitched in the film, because they come across as very arrogant, uncaring bastards, to put it simply. They don't really seem to care. I mean, I do understand that, okay, because in the series, Renji generally has that urge to, I suppose in a sense, undo what's being done to protect Rukia, and Byakuya is kind of the same, although it doesn't really reveal it until season 3. But in this live action adaptation, they just come across as very arrogant, and it almost feels like they would just kill humans without a single thought. They're not really I wouldn't say that they're depicted very well. They don't really come across as the characters from the series, and there's hints, like they give hints that Orihime and Chad are spiritually inclined, so to speak, that they do have the potential to see the spirits, to see the ghosts, and obviously get their abilities that they get later on. But there's only a sprinkling of that, and as I said, it feels very singular. I don't think you could do a sequel to this, largely because of the way they end it. You see, the way this film ends, Rukia gets her powers back. You have Ichigo fight Grand Fisher along with Uryu, and eventually they defeat him. After which, for literally reasons unknown, Ichigo then gets in a fight with Renji. Despite Renji and Byakuya kind of made a deal with Ichigo that if he was to kill Grand Fisher, they would kind of let him be alright. I think the agreement on the grounds that he could give Rukia her powers back, and instead they decided to kill him. So Ichigo defeats Renji, and then Byakuya just does some really fast sword stuff and beats Ichigo. After Ichigo's had the shit kicked out of him by Byakuya, Rukia does something similar to what she does in the series, where she kind of just realises, I've got to do something or else he's going to kill him. So, she does the whole thing where she basically belittles Ichigo and then kind of begs for forgiveness to her brother, and then it kind of all ends with Ichigo, she getting Ichigo's sword and stabbing herself with it and her getting her soul powers back. And then it's on the grounds that if we do this, Ichigo, it kind of says you'll lose your soul powers and you'll forget about me and everything that's happened. And it kind of hints at the very end of the film that Ichigo hasn't necessarily forgotten about Rukia or all the events that happened. But it does feel very singular. I do not think there will be a sequel to this film because I just don't think it'd work. There's no way you can do a sequel. And although I don't feel let down, as I keep saying, I do feel that this film, after waiting for it doesn't really give the Bleach fanbase what they were looking for. I mean, I'm glad to say that it isn't Americanized. Sorry, Hollywood, but you do have a habit of completely Americanizing Japanese films when you get your hands on the rights. Dragon Ball Evolution, we won't talk about it, but man, was that an insulting film. But as I said, the live-action Bleach film is good, but it isn't quite where it should be. As I said, a lot of the primary characters are reduced to minor supporting characters. Chad or Hime, they don't really do anything. They're just there. And they just feel like they're there for the sake of being there. And then, again, I don't really get why they had to have the whole training montage in it with Rukia and Ichigo. I mean, okay, to an extent, I suppose it makes sense for a live-action film, but they could easily have done this film just like season 1, and it would have worked. It would have worked with this film was just under 2 hours. They could have pushed it a bit to just over 2 hours, and they could easily have done the first arc. All they really had to do in this film to make it the first arc of Bleach, because effectively they were about 80% there in this film, it would have made more sense to follow the path they were following in the film, and then in the final bit, after Ichigo's defeated Grand Fisher, because it still works to an extent. You could have him still get beaten by Byakuya, and then afterwards have Rukia just go back to Society with Byakuya and Renji anyway, and then end it with Ichigo waking up in Urahara's shop. And then maybe Urahara stating, they're taking her back to Soul Society. It's pretty likely she's going to be executed. And then have it ending with Ichigo perhaps starting his training with Urahara. That would work. And it feels like they've really missed an opportunity to make a really good live-action trilogy for Bleach. Instead, as I've said, instead of doing that, they've gone with this singular film that takes some of the characters, a bit of the story, and blended it all together into a standalone film. It works as a standalone film, but it just doesn't give me what I was hoping for. I did like the fact that they had Rukia's really weird drawings in it. That was a nice little touch. But all in all, I felt like they'd done just enough to warrant it being an adaptation, but if you've never ever seen Bleach, you would just see this as a typical martial arty Japanese film with a bit of mysticism thrown into it. And that's a real shame, because you don't get the in-depth look at the Soul Reapers, you don't get any kind of in-depth look at Soul Society. All that is secondary, it's all minor. The film is very much the story of Ichigo kind of being forced into everything, because his character doesn't really feel like the Ichigo from the series. He comes across a little bit arrogant. He comes across as being this guy who doesn't want to help. Because in the series, Ichigo is very defensive. He wants to protect his friends. He wants to protect his family, and he wants to protect the spirits, the ghosts of Kurakura Town. And I'm not saying he doesn't want to do that, but in this film, he comes across as a little bit uncaring. Like when Rukia is trying to explain to him, you basically, you're the Soul Reaper now. I've lost my powers for the moment. You need to be out there defeating these hollows. He kind of doesn't want to do it. He just kind of wants to get on with his life. That isn't the Ichigo from the series. And I don't quite know why they went with that narrative for that character, for Ichigo's character. It's a shame. It is, because I feel like Warner Brothers had very much had the potential to create something great, and they've only gone halfway. So I will have to stay. I will give the live action Bleach film, I will give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's good, it's not bad, but it isn't great. And it genuinely could be much, much better. I think I'll definitely stick with the anime series and the manga, but I won't fault the film for what it is. A good attempt. 6.5 out of 10. It's a good attempt, but it isn't a great attempt. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the film. Thank you for watching. Peace out.